Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rashed Rahman, student of MPhil. Today I am going to explain my topic thin layer chromatography. Basically, all we know that chromatography is a physical method of separation in which the components to be separated are distributed between two phases, one which is stationary phase while the other mobile phase move in a definite directions. As we know that stationary phase may be solid or liquid and mobile phase may be liquid or gas. If the stationary phase is solid, then it will be adsorption chromatography. If the stationary phase is liquid, then it will be partition chromatography. As you can see, techniques, stationary phases and mobile phases. Today I am going to explain my topic, which is about thin layer chromatography, in which stationary phase may be liquid or solid and mobile phase is always a liquid. Now let us talk about introduction. TLC is one of the simplest, fastest, easiest and the least expensive of several chromatographic techniques used in the qualitative as well as quantitative analysis of to separate organic compound and to test the purity of compounds. TLC is a form of liquid chromatography consisting of a mobile phase and a stationary phase, a plate or strip coated with a form of silica. The plate may be of glass or alumina, in which we use the slurry of silica or alumina with adsorbent like plaster of Paris. Analysis is performed on a flat surface under the atmospheric pressure and the room temperature. If the surface will not be flat, then there will be no effective separation. Now let us talk about definition. Thin layer chromatography can be defined as a method of separation or identification of a mixture of components into individual components by using finely divided adsorbent solid liquid separate over a glass plate and liquid as a mobile phase. As you can see that in this chromatography, the stationary phase may be solid or may be liquid. Adsorption mean retention or partition or both or any other principle of substance on the stationary phase. If the mobile phase will be liquid and the stationary phase will be solid, then adsorption takes place. If the mobile phase is liquid and the stationary phase is also liquid, then it will be partition. Separation of adsorbed substances by the mobile phase, recovery of the separated substances by continuous flow of the mobile phase elution, qualitative and quantitative analysis of the eluted substances. Now let us talk about principle of TLC. It is based on the principle of adsorption chromatography or partition chromatography. Adsorption, as we have already talked about, in which the stationary phase is solid, and partition, in which the stationary phase will be liquid, or combination of both depending on adsorbent, its treatment and nature of solvent employed. The components with the more affinity towards stationary phase travel slow, and components with the less affinity towards stationary phase travels fast. Now let us talk about in TLC, a solid phase. The adsorbent is coated onto a solid spot, thin sheet of glass, plastics and aluminium as a thin layer about 0.25 millimeter thick, available in Pakistan. In many cases, a small amount of a binder such as plaster of Paris is mixed with the absorbent to facilitate the coating. The mixture A plus B to be separated is dissolved in a solvent and the resulting solution is spotted onto the thin layer plate near the bottom. A solvent or mixture of solvents called the eluent is allowed to flow up the plate by the capillary action against the gravity. At all times, the solid will absorb a certain fraction of each component of the mixture and the remainder will be in solution. Any one molecule will spend part of the time sitting still on the adsorbent with the remainder moving up the plate with the solvent. A substance that is strongly adsorbed, say, will have a greater fractions towards the stationary phase any one time. Thus, any one molecule of A will spend more time sitting still and less time moving, and vice versa. How to run thin layer chromatography? These are 4-5 basic steps which are necessary to run thin layer chromatography. First of all, preparing the developing container. Number 2, prepare the TLC plate. Pour the TLC plate, develop the plate and visualize the spots. Now let us talk about method for applications of adsorbent. Number 1, pouring. Number 2, dipping, spraying and spreading. First one is pouring. What is meant by pouring? The adsorbent of finely divided and homogeneous particle size is made into slurry and is poured onto a plate and allowed to flow over it so that it is evenly covered. Pouring. Dipping. Dipping is the second method after the slurry covered on a sheet. This technique is used for small plates by dipping the two plates at a time back to back in a slurry of adsorbent in chloroform or other volatile solvent. Exact thickness of layer is not known and the evenness of layer may not be good. Slurry is diluted further for operation of sprayer, but this technique is not used nowadays and it is difficult to get uniform layer. Separating all the above method fail to give thin and uniform layer. Therefore, we use modern methods, moving spreader and moving plate. It gives the layer thickness from 0.2 to 2.0 millimeter. After spreading, plates are allowed to dry in air and further dried and activated by heating at about 100 degree for 30 minutes. By removing the liquid associated with the layer completely, the adsorbent layer is activated. Thank you so much for watching videos. If you like, please subscribe my channel and give comments.